Couple lights on, cameras roll, time to break the mold. No more silence, every story's gotta be told. Truth in the air, no filter, no disguise. Real talk, real change, we open up your eyes. We got the voices that are changing the game. Fearless, unchained, calling our names. From the struggles to the rise, we expose, we ignite. No topic too deep when you step in the light. We got the answers, spotlight, let your truth be heard. Unfiltered conversations, every thought, every word. We challenge, we question, we dive in the deep, breaking the silence. No secrets we keep. From the pain to the power, the lessons we learn. Voices of the people, let the fire burn. Dr. Donna, Dr. Laxley, leading the way, guiding the truth in a world full of gray. Experts, activists, voices untold. Everyday heroes with stories so bold. This is more than a show, it's a movement, a spark, illuminating shadows, bringing light to the dark. We got the voices that are changing, be heard. Unfiltered conversations, every thought, every word. We challenge, we question, we dive in the deep, breaking the silence. No secrets we keep. Step into the spotlight, let your truth be heard. Unfiltered conversations, every thought, every word. We challenge, we question, we dive in the deep, breaking the silence. No secrets we keep. We got the voices, spotlight, let your truth be heard. Unfiltered conversations, every thought, every word. We challenge, we question, we dive in the deep, breaking the silence. No secrets we keep. And if you want the real, then tune in right now. We're breaking down on walls, no backing down. One mic, one voice, one mission tonight. Step into the spotlight, let's get it right. Let's get it right. Let's head to the spotlight. Let's get it right. What do?
Hello, everyone, and welcome this Monday evening. Welcome to In the Spotlight. This is, of course, the home of Unfiltered Conversations, where real talk is what we do here. And I am none other than Dr. Donna Thompson.
I'm Dr. Laxley, and together we are your moderator on In the Spotlight. How are you, Doc?
I am great. I am doing absolutely wonderful this Monday evening, even though it's frigid cold. Well, we're kind of like coming through the coldness, but it was kind of rough over the weekend.
You know, I've had worse days, so I'm good with it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not the ideal day, not the day you look forward to, but guess what? It is a beautiful day because we are here to live through it and celebrate life no matter what is happening. So how are you?
I am great. Like we said, you know, it's despite everything else, I am here. I am blessed. I have health. I have strength, and I am here to share this space with you and all our viewers this Monday evening. So it is absolutely an amazing day.
An amazing day, night, wherever you are, afternoon, wherever you are, an amazing one indeed. So Donna, we got something big getting ready to go down because May 22nd is not that far away. I'm going to pop something on the screen and then, real quick, let's talk about it because this is not our main gig tonight. We have big stuff to talk about tonight, but this is big as well. All right.
Yeah. Yes. So look at here. It's going down May 22nd of this year. We're making another trip to Kenya. And of course, it's our community outreach that we're doing. So we're going to be there for 2 weeks, right? We're going to be there for 2 weeks. Once again, we have all the initiatives that we have planned, which, we're looking at. We did toilets the last time we were there. So we're looking at, doing that again. And of course, visiting some orphanages with the kids, just kind of seeing what the needs are with the children there as well once we visit. But one of our big thing is definitely doing the toilet initiative. And we're looking at, of course, solidifying the foundation of our CBO, or Elizabeth Satawa Cancer Community-Based Organization. So we're looking to solidify that as well. So a lot of planning will be taking place around the launch of that as well. But like everything else, Doc, we plan, we have our intentions of what we're going to do, what we would like to do. But as time actually unfolds, things happen, right? So we here at A Collision with Purpose, we just have a tendency of kind of, even though we're planning, we are very flexible. We know how to pivot when things change and when different initiatives come up. So definitely looking forward to that. We definitely have a lot on our plate that we're going to be doing. But like I said, once again, we know that whatever the call is what we're going to be working with and working through.
Yes. So we're going to Kenya, as you said, and it's one mission, one voice, one organization, one movement, right?
Mhm.
And we're looking at schools, we're looking at orphanages, right? And
Yes.
we're looking at the elderly and those who are suffering from cancer with our CBO, as you rightfully put it. So that is Kenya. Big thing is happening May 22nd, and we're going to be going there for 14 days. We expect to be there with a number of our friends. We're looking at maybe 14, 12, 14. Can't handle more than that, but you can certainly support it if you can't come, if you can't make it. So we're looking to that. Now, we also have some other big things happening, right? Because here in the United States and in Jamaica and elsewhere, we also work with a nonprofit organization, Global Humanity Network. And we just launched what we believe is one of the biggest thing ever happened and will ever happen in Jamaica for students, beyond the backpack. And what does that mean? We're not just looking to give some books. We're going way beyond that. We're looking for sponsorship, from mentoring. We're looking to walk with these kids. It's all about building capacity. So we say we're building bridges from where they are to where they want to be, where they're heading. So big stuff there at Global Humanity Network. But tonight we're going to talk about how do we get there. We're going to talk about the growth mindset. That's what we're going to talk about. So let me turn it back over to you.
Yeah. So, like everything else, you can do a lot. You can plan for a lot, but in all things, you do have to have that. You do have to have that growth mindset for these things to be possible and for them to come to fruition. You do have to have that mindset. So it's definitely something that we're going to talk about tonight, and it also surround the work that you have been doing, Dr. Stephenson, with offering different things with the growth mindset initiative project that you're working on. But So jumping right into what we're talking about. So, today's conversation is just not about, it's not about growth, just not about growth, but not the kind that we talk about very casually, right? It's not motivation, not inspiration, and definitely not one that is all about hype. We're talking about sustainable growth, the kind that holds when life gets real heavy, the pressure increases, and our consistency is ultimately tested, right? Because here's what we've noticed, it's that oftentimes people just don't struggle because they don't want to grow. They struggle because growth, it just does not stick. So we set goals, we get inspired, we start strong, and then what happens? Life shows up, and what we do to unpack today through the growth mindset blueprint and living the growth mindset blueprint is why growth actually collapses. It's how mindset actually works and what it takes to build growth that lasts in your personal life, your leadership, your relationships, and your work. So, this is not about fixing yourself, so to speak. It's about aligning how you think, who you believe you are, and how you show up, right? How you show up ultimately. So, with that, we're going to get right into it. And we're going to have this real in-depth conversation with you this evening, Dr. Stephenson, about the growth mindset. And let's start with asking you some questions here. So you wrote your current piece of work, the growth mindset blueprint, and living the growth mindset blueprint. What drove you to take on the growth mindset blueprint project? And what actually pushed it into not just a project, but really a masterclass?
Mhm.
Why do so many people genuinely want growth, but they struggle to sustain it? If you could share that with us.
Yeah, that's an excellent question to start with. And if I am to be honest, I didn't start the growth mindset blueprint as a project. It became a project. It became a project, like a number of things. I started it as a response to patterns that I kept seeing in my life repeatedly, in my own life, and in leadership spaces, in conversations with number of professionals, whether they be entrepreneurs, parents, and even some high-level performance. I noticed that I kept meeting capable people who were doing everything right on the surface, but privately they were struggling with consistency, with confidence, and with clarity, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I would never say that these individuals were lazy or they weren't motivated or that they were lacking intelligence or talent. What happened in their cases, I believe, is that they were stuck. And what struck me more than anything else was that most of them didn't need more information. They had everything they needed, all the information. What they were lacking was a new way to operate, so to speak, a new operating system. I
Right.
watch people all the time reading books, attending conferences, getting inspired, setting goals, right? And then
Mhm.
quietly return to the same old patterns. You've done it, I've done it, especially during Christmas, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
they didn't do this because they didn't care. They did it because no one had ever shown them how growth actually works when life gets tough and real. So that is where the growth mindset blueprint was born. It came from that setting. And it was a deep conviction in my head, at least, that growth is not about trying harder necessarily. You
Mm-hmm.
hear they say you can get busy, 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 work, 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 and not getting any results.
Right.
You- I discovered over time that growth is about aligning your mindset with your belief, with your identity, and with systems, having systems in place. So, and until those elements or those things are aligned, you will find that you keep restarting every single time instead of building. So each Christmas, each New Year, each birthday, you find yourself doing a restart. So that is why I developed the blueprint, the growth mindset blueprint, and the companion guide, right?
Right.
All right. So understanding growth is never enough. You know, you could nod your heads, agree with ideas, even feel a bit encouraged, but still struggle to live it out consistently. You know how we tend to agree, yeah, we know how to do this, we're going to do it. So that is when I started to realize that insight without structure creates nothing more than frustrations. So the work, it evolves, right? It continues. The blueprint had to move from concept to practice, from reading to living, from awareness to application. And that's what drove it into becoming a workshop. So the growth mindset blueprint masterclass exists because growth must be trained, not just understood. It must be practiced in real time. We must discuss it honestly, challenge each other gently, and reinforce each other intentionally. So, what does a masterclass allow people to do? It allows people to slow down, to reflect, to confront beliefs they have been leading with all their lives, right? And to begin building systems that actually support who they're becoming. So, again, the masterclass workshop, the books, they're not about motivation. They are about recalibration, recalibrating yourself, right? So I know you've heard me say it before that my theme for 2026 is consistency and
Mm-hmm.
discipline by design. So that is what drives this work. And it's to help people stop surviving cycles and start building lives. And so that's why this project exists right now.
Okay, so you mentioned something that that struck me, and in reference to, you know, the pattern that we have, like the end of the year, like you said, how a lot of people, we start setting our goals and things of that nature for the new year, right? But at some point it falls short when the year, you know, when the new year begins. um so why would you say that uh, growth initially fails? Because individuals, they just don't understand how it works. And what do you mean by that?
Well, most people, most people want growth, right? They want growth
Mm-hmm.
because they want it fast, quick, right? But you and I know that real growth is like construction. It's slow, it sometimes is unseen, and it's held together by a structure. If I'm answering your question,
Mm-hmm.
people usually start with emotion, inspiration, so pain, urgency, or have ambition, right? But emotion, while you can use emotion to start a journey, it cannot sustain a journey. Emotion is what we call like the weather. You know, it's a system or climate. It changes, right? You know, we have these emotions today, we're this, tomorrow we're that. Another reason is this: people try to grow from the outside in too
Mm-hmm.
often. They change habits without examining the beliefs that
Mm-hmm.
created those habits. So what they do end up doing is that they force a new routine on top of an old identity, if
Mm.
you understand what I'm saying.
Right, right.
And what does that do? It creates internal resistance. And guess what? You cannot outwork misalignment. When there's
Right.
resistance, when alignment is off, you can't outwork that. So, what you must achieve is sustained growth. And that happens when these three things lock in. You must have clarity. What are you building and why? You must have consistency. What practices reinforces what you're building? And then identity. Who am I becoming that makes this a natural thing for me, right? So most people, they'll do one thing. They'll skip the identity part.
Mm-hmm.
They say, I am trying to do better. But guess what? Inside them, they still believe that they're who they are. They
Right.
still believe that I am inconsistent, that I always fall off, I am not disciplined. That belief becomes a self-fulfilling pattern. So to your thing, they don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because they don't have a design to carry that desire.
Right. And so profound what you're saying, because oftentimes we do try to fix the external and not fix the internal first. And yeah, and we struggle with it and can't sustain it for sure. Wow. But why do you think that this having this conversation about growth mindset is so important in this time right now?
Well, right now, we are living right in a time where people are maxed out mentally. And I
Hmm.
don't tell you that. They're gone emotionally and spiritually. Yet there are still expectations to perform. Like everything is fine. You see it happen in your homes, you see it happen on the street with your friends, you see it everywhere. We have, in a way, normalized high stress and call it ambition, right? You know, I was having a conversation with you today, and someone said something, and they have expectations, and we normalize that behavior.
Hmm.
So, what we do very well also is that we have normalized burnout and call it productivity. And we have also normalized instability and called it just life. But is it just life? So a growth mindset matters now because it gives people what I call a new operating system. It helps them stop living in what we call a reaction mode, where everything is urgent, everything is on the tip, everything is emotional,
Hmm.
everything is pressurized, right?
Right.
And the idea is to start living in a response mode or be more responsive, where we have tools to regulate, to reframe, and rebuild. And this is for leaders, especially. And I'm going to say that anyone who will be listening to us today, they're leaders, right? The stakes are even higher if you lead people. And I believe most of us at least lead in our homes, right?
Hmm.
So leadership today is not just about strategy. It is about emotional steadiness, being adaptable, having clarity, and cultural influence, right? So if your mindset is unstable, your team, your family, and everyone around you tend to become unstable as well. If your identity is somewhat overwhelmed, your team and your family will also feel it. They'll experience that. So, this conversation we're having, the growth mindset blueprint, makes is even more important because it will restore that sense of agency within us, right? You,
Right.
Dr. Donna, you may not control what happens to you, but you can train how you respond.
Hmm.
That is exactly what growth mindset, what it is in real life.
Yeah. So as we're talking, and you touch on that point about leaders, and we're leaders in different capacity in our lives, whether our jobs or homes. You know, we all lead in some shape or form. Um, so let's touch on how critical leadership is and the issue that we have today with leadership. Why is it that the growth, having that growth mindset more essential? Why is it more essential now in present time that it may have been in previous years?
Well, I'm going to say that it was always essential. We just didn't realize how essential it was. But
Mhm.
the pace, the way things are changing so fast, it's no longer an occasional thing. Change is more constant than it has ever been, right? So
Right.
in previous seasons in the past, you and I and many of us could operate on routine and have some level of predictability in those routines. Today, leaders are expected to adapt faster, learn faster, decide faster, and even recover faster, right? So that type of adaptability and ability to operate and function requires a mindset that can handle uncertainty without panic. They can handle feedback without shame, right? And change without resistance, can also handle challenges without collapsing. Now, a fixed mindset sees change more as disruption. We resist this, we resist it, we don't want it. It's disrupting the status quo. A growth mindset, on the other hand, sees change as development. We're growing, we're progressing, right? So in today's world, if you or anyone listening to us today can learn or can't learn, if you can't learn, you can't lead, because you must be able to learn to lead. If you can't adapt, you cannot sustain, because life is going to get in the way. Changes are going to overpower you. So what you must embrace is a growth mindset, and that it must understand that it is not one of those soft skill anymore. It is a function of leadership all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so we talk about how many leaders they're expected to be adaptable, having those skills to adapt to change very quickly. And we see that we have many leaders who they are capable and they're very talented individuals. But why are so many of these individuals feeling overwhelmed in today's leadership world?
Well, I'm going to answer it this way. Many of these overwhelmed leaders are carrying capacity without containment. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Talent gives you all kinds of ability, but systems give you boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many gifted people have extreme high output, but they have low structure.
Mm-hmm.
So they're always running, always reaching, always trying to catch up. And you'll see what I mean by capacity without containment. So being overwhelmed is often the result of having unclear priorities, weak routines, lack of emotional regulation tools, and trying to be everything for everyone. And you know about that. I know about that. We do that
Mm-hmm.
all the time, right?
Right.
So our identity is tied to our performance. But here's something even more critical, I believe. Many talented people are not overwhelmed by workload. They got that.
Mm-hmm.
They are overwhelmed by internal pressure from self, right? The
Mm-hmm.
pressure to prove, the pressure to be perfect, the pressure to not disappoint others, right? That inner pressure amplifies every external demand that you have on yourself. So the solution isn't that you should do less. The solution is that you should build better with structure. You should have better systems. You should have better beliefs and better, what I call, identity alignment.
Right. You said one thing here, that pressure, that internal pressure. Um, if you tell us a little bit about what happens when leaders they ultimately ignore their mindset when they're under pressure.
You ever hear some people say, I work better under pressure?
I have heard that.
You've heard that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm here to tell everyone today that pressure doesn't create character. Pressure reveals who you are. So what you're probably doing under pressure is what you're capable of doing and nothing more. It
Mm-hmm.
reveals who you are. So when leaders ignore mindset, it exposes pressure, right? What they truly believe, it exposes what they truly believe about themselves, how they handle discomfort, whether they lead from fear or growth, or whether their confidence is stable or performative, right? And then how does it show up, right? It shows up in reactive communication, in the way they communicate. It shows up in their decision making, emotional decision making. It shows up in avoidance of accountability. And that's a big one, right?
Right.
So, and then what do they do to the people they're leading? Inconsistent standards and demands, right? And they tend to blame and become very defensive, and often they tend to withdraw. And what does that do for the team and for your family? Right? What does that do for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They immediately have to deal with that. So they feel it immediately. They get the brunt of it, right? If you're in your home and you're not happy, and what happens with the people around you? It's never a good situation, right? So what is it? Leaders often think culture is built through speeches and values, and those are important things. But culture is built through patterns, especially when you're under stress. You know, people tend not to copy what you say when you're calm. They copy how you respond when life is hard, and they see how you deal with it. So what we shouldn't do is ignore our mindset. We should not ignore it, because ignoring our mindset will limit our leadership capacity and capabilities, and will affect the culture we build around us as well.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. So with that, we're gonna get deeper into talking about the work that you've been doing and the workshops that you've done, and we're going to also get into the growth mindset blueprint. But before we do that, let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break, and then we will come right back into digging a little bit deeper in our conversation with you, Dr. Stephenson, with the growth mindset blueprint. So let's go ahead and take a quick break, if that is okay with you.
I'm a boy kid, I'm a boy kid. I'm a boy kid, I'm a boy kid. I wake up in the morning and I praise the Lord. I thank Him for His protection, and I walk in His steps, declaring that today's provision is set up for me. I love God and I love my friends. Yeah, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid. I put on my armor and I read His word, blessing come out of my mouth. Cause I know to whom I belong, I am bold for Christ. Holy Spirit dwelling within me, carrying His presence wherever He sends me. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. Loving others as He told me to pray for healing, miracles to see, knowing my identity in Christ, He is in me. I am a bold kid, He loves me, standing firm on His word, proclaiming everything I heard, not afraid because He is with me. Be bold. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. Put on my armor and I read His word, blessing come out of my mouth. Because I know to whom I belong, I am bold for Christ. Holy Spirit dwelling within me, carrying His presence wherever He sends me. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. I'm going to be a bold kid. I am Dr. Donna Thompson. So welcome back to In the Spotlight. This evening, we have the pleasure of speaking with none other than Dr. Stephenson. And we are talking about the growth mindset blueprint and living the growth mindset blueprint. I'm going to also put in the comments the link where you can actually purchase a copy of his book, The Growth Mindset. And so with that, thank you for coming back on, everyone. We're going to speak about now the growth mindset blueprint, right? And the framework behind this. And Dr. Stephenson, tell us exactly what is the growth mindset blueprint?
All right. That's, when asked that question, it can be a little bit difficult to just break it down, but I'm going to try and break it down in a
As
sentence.
best as you can.
In a sentence, the growth mindset blueprint is a structured framework that explains how growth becomes repeatable and not accidental. All right. And what does it do? It helps people understand the architecture of transformation. And what does that mean? Your mindset is how you interpret life. Your belief is what you think is possible. Your identity is who you believe you are. And systems is what you repeatedly do. So I think that's sort of give you the infrastructure, right?
Right.
Now, the blueprint is designed for people who are, let's say, tired of starting over,
Mm-hmm.
because they believe that starting over is not always a motivational problem. And we know that to be true, because we're not short on motivation. And that we also believe that growth is a factor of what we call design problem. So the blueprint is not here just to inspire you. We expect some inspiration, but it is here to show you what to build so growth can hold its weight. So it's sustainable in essence.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, um, so I know you touched on, it potentially inspires you, but how is it different from motivational or inspirational content?
All right. So the big piece here is that motivation makes you feel like you're ready, right? You've been to the seminars, you've done all of that, right? And
Right.
when you come home, you are fired up. Now, the difference is with the framework or the blueprint, it will make you become ready. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference, right? Motivation will give you a spark, but the blueprint, when you build a home and we talk about architecture, the
Right.
blueprint gives you the foundation, what you're building from. Motivation will say things to you like, you can do it. That's all good and well. But the blueprint will tell you, here's how you build
Mm-hmm.
what makes it sustainable, that whatever it is that you're building. And guess what happens with motivation over time? It tends to fade, right? And especially when you run into challenges and conflicts. Motivation tends to fade in exhaustion when you're tired and when life hits hard. But when you have a system in place, systems don't require a feeling. What they require is commitment, which is why I will say it right now and every time that motivation is emotional while growth is engineered.
Wow. Motivational is emotional and growth is engineered. Wow. So with that, um, why would we say why doesn't goals work without mindset and systems?
Well, I'm glad that you said without mindset and systems, because goals are very important, right?
Right.
Because goals give us direction, but they don't give us discipline. Does that make sense?
It does.
Goals give us direction. We know where we're heading. We know where we're traversing to. But there's no discipline with goals, not necessarily, right? Right.
Right.
A goal will generally tell you where you want to go. I want to head to. We're going to Kenya. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a goal, right?
Right.
But what it's not telling us is what we necessarily need to do to get there, to get to Kenya, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we generally, as individuals, we tend to set goals all the time. I want to be one goal that I set for myself this year is that I want to be consistent. I want to
Right.
live by it. I want to have better communication. And I also, when I did my growth strategy for myself and my business, I want to grow my business. Those are all goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? Without systems that your goals can now depend on, right? You're not in, you're out. Because if you're dependent on just mood and energy and circumstances, you've got problems. So that is why it is important to have systems that which we will use to create reliability.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of system? It could be as simple as having weekly check-ins,
Right.
daily planning, having accountability rhythms, feedback loops, or routines that will reinforce your identity. So to summarize it, I will say that goals create intention, while your systems will create a way for you to execute your goals.
Right. Wow. And how does our belief, identity, and the systems, how does all those work together in growth?
All right. So again, that's another very important question because we need to distinguish the difference between
Mm-hmm.
these individual elements, right? For belief is what you think is possible. That's what belief is. Your identity is who you think you are, and systems are what you repeatedly do, right? Now, this is how you connect them. Your beliefs tend to influence your identity. If you believe you can grow, you can start seeing yourself as someone who learns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, your identity also influences your behavior. If you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you tend to behave differently. So and then what does the system how does the system bring it together? It makes it all repeatable. So while systems remove and eliminate all the debate from the conversation, right? Because they tend to turn your behavior into habits, right? And
Right.
then they become your identity. So what happens when things are off the wagon, when misalignment shows up, right? You tend to you set a growth goal, you want to grow, but you believe you can't change. That is where misalignment is showing up now. So what does your identity do? Your identity become a stock. It's stock. It's not good. So you tend not to build structure because you're lacking a system. So it's very important that you have all those things in place. And I wish that if we had posted these questions, then they could go back and follow the questions that you're asking me. If we had posted them in the chat, it would have been
Oh,
helpful. But
yeah, I can
it
certainly
might be
do
a bit
that.
late. Now, but let's go from misalignment where you want growth, but you believe you can't. So your identity becomes stuck, and then you tend not to build structure. Let's go from misalignment to alignment. When you believe growth is possible, when you believe that Dr. Donna, you believe you can grow, you claim an identity that matches with that growth, that align with that growth, right? So, and then what do you do? Because you're feeling so good about who you are as a person, because you see the possibility of growth, and now you're claiming that identity, you start to build systems that support it, and your outcome, your performance becomes much more consistent.
Right. Well, I'm trying to post the questions there, but we're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep moving along because I know this is really really some deep stuff that we're talking about. But now that you have laid out the framework for us, which is of course extremely important about the growth mindset blueprint, um, now we have a great framework. But we all know knowing is one thing, and it's definitely not the same as actually living it.
Mhm.
Why is understanding growth not enough for most people?
Well, you know, you get up and you understand that if you do your exercise, it's good for you, right?
Hmm.
Is that going to make you do it necessarily?
Nope.
Right. Okay. So that is insight.
Hmm.
Insight without repetition, which is the action, is not going to rewire anything in you. You can understand the importance of good nutrition and still eat poorly. That's just an example.
Right.
So you can also understand communication and still avoid having hard conversations. So understanding is important, but it's not going to do the job by itself. So
Mhm.
what is the importance of having understanding? And that it changes awareness, while the repetition, the action part is what will change your actual behavior, right? And I know I'm going into some of what we do in the workshop, but I think
Mhm.
it's important, right? Because we want to give an overview. What happened with most people is that they don't generally fail because they lack information. People generally fail because information never becomes their practice. They don't practice it. They get it, they sit on it. You know, we buy these books, we get them, we
Mhm.
very rarely use them. So I think we should understand that growth is not a what I call a mental agreement. It is a trained response to something, which is why people can leave a workshop inspired, read a book motivated, and listen to a podcast like this one feeling real encouraged, and
Mhm.
still return to the same bad habits by Monday. So again, I don't want to say, I'm not saying anything is wrong with the insight. It's just that something is missing. And when I say the insight is the understanding, something is missing. And what is missing is a method of practice. Because growth only becomes that important factor when it is rehearsed in small moments, especially under pressure and on ordinary days when motivation isn't high. Because you can't just grow when you're motivated. You must also grow when you're not. Right? So
Right.
that is why living the blueprint, the growth mindset blueprint, is so important, because we must understand that growth doesn't necessarily happen in the knowing, it happens in the doing,
Right.
especially the small, consistent doing that rewires who you are over time, which is where transformation actually takes hold.
And now with the Living the Growth Mindset Blueprint, there's also a companion guide. And how does the companion guide help people to stay consistent?
You know, lifestyle is everything, right?
Hmm.
You remember when we walk every single day? We're not just going out there to walk for a marathon. That's a special event, right?
Right.
Well, growth becomes a lifestyle, not when it's a special event. And this is how it shows up, right? It shows up in how you talk to yourself, how you respond to situations, setbacks in your life, and how you make important decisions, or any decision for that matter, under pressure.
Hmm.
And you know how you build your routine, like when you get up in the morning, you read a book, you go for a walk, you do those type of things. And very important is how you manage emotional triggers. Very important. So living the growth mindset means that you stop asking, how do I feel today? You stop asking, how do I feel today? And instead ask, what does this version of me that I am becoming do today? Not how you feel, but what should I do today?
Right. And that's really a valid point. What you should do today. Um, that makes a huge difference. But what are some of the small, you would say some of the small daily shifts that actually makes growth mindset stick?
What are some of the small, all right, daily shifts? Let me say this. So this is very important. That let me first tell you that small shifts are powerful because they are repeatable.
Hmm.
So just to say small shifts without understanding their significance and why they're important, you sort of you'll miss it. They are important because they're repeatable, and when things are repeatable, they become habits. And when those are the habits that form your new identity or
Hmm.
your identity. So while big changes can be very inspiring, they're hard to sustain. They're hard to sustain, right? So small shifts, they fit into your everyday real life. And because they're doable, they actually stick. So here are some you ask, what are some of them? One thing you should do is we should always just pause before we react to something. Just pause. That one breath before you respond requires emotional regulation within you. It creates space between stimulus and responses. And that space is where growth lives, right? Between stimulus and responses, right? So another thing to do is replacing I can't with possibility language, right?
Right.
You're not pretending it's easy by doing that. And what I'm telling you, you're not pretending it's easy. You're just reminding your brain that growth is still available within you. So when you say I can't, it's locking that possibility off that there's growth. However, when you bring in possibility language, you are reminding your brain that growth is still available. And setting a daily top 3 priorities is another important thing. Not 10, not everything, just 3. This reduces that whole feeling of being overwhelmed and train you to become more focused, right? Another one is to having a fixed time for reflection. I know often we're so busy we don't even sit down and think about what just happened,
Mhm.
much less what happened yesterday, right? So even for 5 minutes, same time, same place, when you first get up in the morning, reflection will turn whatever experience you had into a learning opportunity, right? And the last thing I will say is do weekly review and reset. Ask yourself what worked, what didn't, what needs adjusting. This prevents pattern from repeating unconsciously. And we talk about repeating things, but the right things, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. There are others I could share, but but let me
That's
tell you why these small shifts are so important before we move on to something else. Small shifts become systems. They're the new systems you're building. If you get up every single morning and you go for a little walk, even just have a cup of coffee and sit down and talk, that's a system you're building. And what
mhm.
is that system doing? It's actually shaping your new identity. And that is the identity that will bring and produce results in your life. So understand that you don't grow because you're trying harder. You're going to grow because you practice better consistently, intentionally, and over time. And that is exactly my suggestion from our book, how growth stop becoming temporary and start becoming who you are.
Right. So before we move on, I just want to acknowledge a few of our friends that has joined us. Hilda, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Appreciate you being here with us. Let's see, Fate, thank you for being here. Dr. Reed, thank you for joining us. And Imani, thank you for joining us as well. And I know there's several others, but if I didn't see you pop up here, we do appreciate you being here with us. And this evening, of course, on In the Spotlight, we're talking about the growth mindset with Dr. Stephenson, who is the expert at this. So he is definitely pouring a lot of knowledge here on us this evening. So I hope everyone is tuned in and you're probably taking some notes, jotting some things down, because I'm even throwing some questions in the comments there. So you can definitely take part. And if you have questions, put the questions in the comments. He's here. He's the expert. So put your questions in the comments. If I haven't asked anything, and I know he'll be more than willing to answer those questions for us. But with that, we're going to just take this and make it a little bit more personal and practical, right? For our everyday life and leadership, Dr. Stephenson. And we're going to talk about identity and self talk and real life application. We're going to dig down into this some more. Why can't people lead beyond the identity that they hold?
Why can't people lead beyond the identity they hold?
Mm-hmm.
You are your identity. Your identity is you, right? Your identity, and let's put it this way, is the thermostat. It is not the thermometer.
Mm-hmm.
So while skills and motivation, willpower can raise performance temporarily, it is your identity that will actually set the temperature you will always return to. So you will always go back to that place of who you are. So you'll get out there and you'll perform a little bit. So let's say, for example, your identity says that I am overwhelmed. You will generally lead in ways that create that type of overwhelmed behavior. Even if you are competent, capable, and well trained, we're not saying you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You will generally be that person who's going to rush decisions. You will you'll tend to react instead of responding, and we talked about that earlier. So and you'll walk around feeling behind even when you're ahead. And I have lived in that place before, where I
Wow.
was doing amazingly well, but I felt behind because of my identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now, if you now model and live an identity that says that I'm a learner, I am learning, guess what you do? You lead differently. You tend to ask better questions. You show up slower, but you're not reacting. You're responding,
Mm-hmm.
and you remain steady under pressure. Not because things are easier. We're not saying any of this is easy, but because your identity allows room for growth. And so here's the key distinction that I want to lay out. I want to lay out. People can generally perform above their identity for a moment, a brief moment, but they cannot sustain that level of behavior above their identity for any period of time. That is why when someone attend a workshop, they walk away feeling inspired because they're performing above their identity. And so operating at the level like that for a week or two, they can do it. But
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they get back home a week later or two, they return quietly to their old patterns, right? Not because the training failed, but because their identity was never updated as it should have. So eventually, when pressure shows up, it could be fatigue or stress,
Mm-hmm.
you'll find that people, they don't rise to their goals. What they do, they return to who they believe they are. That is their identity. And that is why you'll find that lasting leadership growth doesn't begin with doing more. It begins with becoming someone new.
Right.
And how do you do that? You change the idea, you change your identity, and your behavior also follows. So if you have a different type of identity, you will behave differently. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely makes sense.
And if you ignore the new identity, or that identity that tends to perform better, the behavior will snap right back.
Right.
So that is the difference when I say between temporary performance and sustainable leadership. It's all in the identity that you're modeling.
That right.
Mhm.
And how with that, how does an overwhelmed identity look like in leadership
Mhm.
or in your personal life?
So it's important for me to say this. It's not business,
Mm-hmm.
because many powerful, effective leaders are busy. It's when you're operating in a place of survival, right? So you're constantly rushing, even when there's no real emergency, but you're just rushing.
Mm-hmm.
You're irritable, and you're short on patience, especially with people who you care about and who care about you. That's a sign. You always tend to avoid important conversations because they feel too heavy to carry, and trying to control everything because uncertainty feels unsafe. So Yeah, I should also say that feeling guilty when you rest, as if slowing down means like you're falling behind. I don't know if that ever happened to you. When you rest, you're feeling guilty. That's not a good sign. Or you're falling behind. And I know that's something I need to work on. And and always catching up.
Mhm.
You're never feeling ahead or settled, right? So another big thing is what would I call decision fatigue, where even small choices feel exhausting.
Right.
But
Wow.
this is a bigger deal. Let me, and I need to say this before you know, this is something that people tend to miss. We all, right? That even small problems feel like big threats sometimes, right? A simple email can feel overwhelming, and that's a small problem. A minor setback feels personal, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Even a small mistake feels like proof that you're failing. And guess what? We're not talking about time management issues here, and it's not a skill issue. That is what identity overwhelm is.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It basically, what I'm saying is that your internal self image is operating in survival mode,
Mhm.
constantly scanning, looking for danger, bracing for impact, and preparing for the next thing to go wrong. So you're out there searching for it.
And you know what? Probably a very high percentage of us we, we are functioning in that space.
So, so Dr. Donna, the truth be told is that often we're not leading from who we are. We are reacting from what we're trying to survive from.
We are very reactive.
Right?
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
is the cost of an overwhelmed identity for what
yeah,
it's worth.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Dr. Reed said most interesting reality.
What was it?
She said most interesting reality. And Marcia had asked a question, could that be fear of change? And that may have been to probably the first question we were talking about, can people lead beyond the identity they hold? Hmm.
Well, it's interesting because we talk about what should we fear in change when it's there to grow us, right?
Right,
It's
right.
uncertainty. It's part of the uncertainty that comes with change because change
Mhm.
itself, especially in our lives, is a good thing. So why should we fear that? So it's something else within that inner image, that inner self, that is
Mhm.
the problem. That's what we need to work on. Because there's
Right.
nothing to fear in change itself. It's other things that is happening within our inner self that is the problem, right?
And and her question that she just asked just lead us right into that, how self-talk quietly shape or behavior and or decision making. Tell us about that, Dr. Stevenson.
I,
How does that
I,
living in our head?
I have, I've been doing a lot of reading on self-talk. In fact, in all of this stuff, I've been doing a lot of reading on. But all of this information is coming to me since this project, right?
Mhm.
The growth mindset blueprint project. And what I'm learning about self-talk is what it really is. It is the script your nervous system follows, right?
Wow.
So if you constantly say to yourself, this is too much, your body responds with stress and avoidance.
Mhm.
On the other hand, if you say, I can learn through this, your body stays more regulated and engaged. So, what self talk is doing to us, right? It shapes courage, consistency, and clarity because it shapes what you think is safe or possible. And that's so important. And if even about the thing about change as well, right?
Mhm.
It shapes what you think is safe or possible. If it's safe, if you believe it's not safe, you back away. If you believe
Right.
it's possible, you pursue.
Mhm.
So it's very important that self talk is something we need to become better at practicing. in our lives. And no, don't be worrying about other people, your friends, your family. Take care of you first. Model self-talk in your life. Because
Right.
you can't fix anyone if you're not fix yourself.
Yeah. And how does possibility language change outcomes?
Mm. And that's a good one because I touched on possibility language earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So possibility language changes the outcome because it keeps the door open, not just mentally, emotionally, and neurologically, right? When someone says, I can't do this,
Hmm.
what does the brain hear? A full stop.
Right.
Done. Moving on to something else, right?
Mhm.
So the brain treats that statement as final as can be. The nervous system, it tightens up, right? And all of your creativity turns off. What does that mean? Your effort is done, it's dropped. You're not going to do it. Because why invest energy in something you have already decided is impossible? Not too many people are going to do that, right?
Right.
It's not going to work. Why should I do it? But when you shift the language to possibility language, I am not there yet,
Mm-hmm.
something different happens. The brain stays engaged because I'm not there yet, but I'm
Mm.
searching, right?
Right.
And curiosity activates. Guess what? Learning becomes possible. That, and we talk about yet at our workshop, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about yet that one little three letter words signals to the mind that growth is still available. And this very moment you're in is part of a process, not a verdict that you're done. Now, let me try and make it a little bit more practical, right? I'm going to give an example. Let's say Dr. John Jones is having a bad day and he says something like, I'm I am bad at having difficult conversations. You know, they tend to avoid, Dr. John will avoid accountability. He will tolerate underperformance and quietly resent the very situation that needs to be to address, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if that same Dr. John says, I am learning now to have difficult conversations, he's more likely to prepare, practice, and ask for feedback and improve over time, right? So he's willing to have the conversation. So he's going to be more curious and want to have it, right? The same exact person with the same challenge, but different language. And what is likely? Different outcome, right? So possibility language doesn't deny reality. All it's doing is reframing it, right? So it doesn't say that this is easy. It says that this is learnable. And that's the critical thing. And the most important thing, one of the most important thing to understand in any growth mindset approach to life is everything is learnable. And guess what? The brain responds accordingly. So let me wrap this part up by saying language directs our attention. Attention directs effort, and effort directs what? Growth, right? So when people speak in fixed absolute terms, always, never, can't, impossible, you know some of those, right?
Mm, yeah.
What they're only doing is training their brain to stop searching for a solution. But when we speak and use possibility language, we're learning, we're growing, developing, and improving. Our brain is in problem solving mode. So that's why this matters so much in leadership and personal growth. Your language doesn't just describe your experience, it programs your response to it.
Absolutely. So with that, we still have, a lot that we're talking about here, and I thank everyone for joining us. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and we're going to get deeper into some misconceptions and failures that how we process failure as feedback. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll be right back after this brief commercial break.
Dr. Garfield McCook, And I came here today to be re-inspired, if there's a word such as re-inspired. Dr. Laxley has been a mentor, and the masterclass, the blueprint or the growth. Let me get it right. Living the growth mindset blueprint. I thought it was an interesting topic, and I did receive a lot in that. It had me energized now. It had me looking into myself to see what I was doing, where I was in life, and knowledge is always good. So I was able to relearn, and I'm going back now motivated because I have heard some stuff that I put on the shelf, but it's now back in my mindset. And I thank him, and it was a great masterclass, and looking forward to all of it.
Okay, my name is Marcia Parker, and today I came out because the cover of the book is what drove me to the book. The cover, because to me, to have the growth mindset is speaking volumes. How we think, how we live, how we work, how we do everything. It was a lot of food for thought today, and it's a lot for us to unravel. It's a lot for us to apply to our life. But I do appreciate and welcome all that was said today from both the attendees and our beloved Dr. Laxley.
How are you?
Doing good, Brother Hines, doing good.
I'm good. I'm Art Hines, and I just finished up on the workshop, and it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful tool. I think this was a tool that can be used by many people for different reasons as far as leadership is concerned. You can use it in the corporate environment, you can use it in your family, you can use it with your children. It's a versatile tool, and I think it gives a lot of good information as far as leadership is concerned. If you want to sharpen your leadership skills, it's a good tool for that in terms of showing you a direction to go as far as your mindset is concerned. It's almost like a blueprint for your mindset. And I highly recommend it. And I think if anybody wants to go down that road of leadership, I think this workshop will be just the right tool for this task. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Dr. Omar Coop. I attended the Blue Mastermind, and this class was amazing. I learned a great deal, and I wish that we could have it more often. This is really needed in our community, just for the point of networking and just being amongst like-minded people on a regular basis.
I'm Apollon Reed, and it was a pleasure being here. My friend Dr. Laxley invited me. I know that whatever he presented, I would have benefited because I need to be awakened. I need to come out of my comfort zone, and it did just that for me. And I really want to thank him because I needed a reset, and it reinforced what I believe.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So as we can see, Dr. Stephenson, your workshop was very, very successful. We definitely see that, everyone is really needing that reset with their growth mindset. So I would like to say thank everyone for participating in your workshop. And we have the link that is in the comments to your website, A Collision with Purpose. So hopefully that should be popping up in the comments real quick. And also the link has been posted in the comments where you can go and grab your copy of the Growth Mindset books if you have not done so. And also I want to say, look forward and keep your eyes and ears open, because there's going to be more workshops that's coming up in the near future. So you don't want to be left out. You do not want to be left out there. You definitely want to be a part of this great workshop that Dr. Stephenson is offering as well. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to continue with our conversation here with Dr. Stephenson. And we thank him so much for his time here on In the Spotlight, for sharing his knowledge with us. So we're going to move right along into our next segment, Dr. Stephenson, where we're going to speak about misconceptions and failure as feedback. Because oftentimes, you know, some of us get a little antsy when we fail. But we also know that growth requires changing how we view setbacks and how we view failure on a whole, right? So if you could share with us, what are the biggest misconceptions about the growth mindset?
And there are many. But I believe, Dr. Donna, that one of the number one misconception is that in order to have a growth mindset, you must be positive all the time. That is not so. And that you must ignore struggle, and that pretending that failure doesn't hurt. All misconceptions, right?
Right.
The growth mindset means that you accept reality, that you take responsibility for your situation, and that you're willing and wanting to learn through discomfort, and that you practice consistently, right? So a growth mindset is not a denial thing. It is developing discipline through developing discipline. That's what it is. So it certainly is not being positive all the time or ignoring struggle or pretending that failure doesn't hurt. It's more about accepting reality, taking on your responsibility fully, and learning through discomfort, growing through discomfort, and practicing consistently. That is it right there.
Right. And so with that, why do you think most people fear failure so deeply?
You know, that is such an important question. You know, it's not about information, right? It's about because we attach failure so deeply and connect it to us, to our identity, to who we are, right? We see failure as not that we lack information, but we attach it emotionally, physically to us. So that's one of the reasons. So people generally don't experience failure as something that happened. They're experiencing failure as something that says something about who they are. Not just something that happened, but it's saying, I am this, I am that, I am no good. So failure doesn't necessarily sound like that didn't work. That's not what people say. People generally, and some people do, by the way, but some people generally say that I failed because I'm not enough, not good enough, because I'm always behind, and that I've been exposed. And once that level of failure is tied to your identity, it becomes dangerous, and it feels dangerous. It becomes personal, and then it becomes permanent. It's tied to you, right? So that is why people are afraid of change. You asked a question earlier. The question asked by Marcia, right? People are afraid of change because it connects them to failure if it didn't work out. So therefore, change is risk, so we avoid risk, not because they don't want or people don't want to grow, but because growth feels like a threat to their sense of worth. All right, and think about this, right? If you believe failure means you're incapable, you probably won't try, right?
You won't try, yeah.
And if you believe that failure means you're falling behind, you will compare instead of learn. So you don't compare yourself with others instead of saying, I am going to learn what I need to learn to progress, right? And also, if you believe failure means you're exposed, you'll play it safe. And guess what? End up staying small, right? It's worth noting that every meaningful form of growth requires some level of risk. Whether it's learning a new skill, leading in a new season with a new team, having a challenging conversation, starting something new, something unfamiliar. All of it involves the possibility that it might not work out. But here's the powerful part in it all. The truth, most people were never taught, they never learned. Failure is not a verdict in your life. It is not a label. It is not a reflection of who you are, of your true value. We must see failure as what it is. It is feedback. And we talk a lot about that in our workshop, right?
Right.
What failure is telling you is that certain things didn't work and that they need some level of adjusting, right? And that your assumptions about certain things in life need to be updated. So it's really pointing that there is some growth that is required next in your life. So the moment you're able to separate who you are from what happened, guess what? Fear loses its grip on you. You stop protecting what people call ego, and start strengthening your own capacity. You start to build, right?
Right.
And it's then and then only when growth becomes possible. Not because failure disappeared, because that's not going anywhere, right? It didn't work. Because it loses its power to define you. And that is when you experience that shift.
Right. Give me just a second. Let me just say good evening to a few people and acknowledge some of our guests. Carrie Ann Kelly said, great job, Dr. Laxley. And she said that I will not be left out. And I'm assuming that's in the next masterclass she's referencing to. So keep her on your calendar. Hilda said, failure impacts on self-esteem, which influences how we think others see us. So thank you for that comment, Hilda. And so with that, I'm going to ask you, Dr. Stephenson, because we're talking about failure and how we should look at failure. How does reframing failure actually accelerates your growth?
Well, you know, Dr. Donna, when you stop the bleeding emotionally, you're able to grow, right? So when you reframe failure as data, as information, as feedback, you shut off the bleeding emotionally, and then you can start learning strategically, right? So instead of replaying the moment with shame, frustration, or self-judgment, you need to shift into a new analysis, a new approach. You need to move from reaction to reflection, right? So move from a place of reaction to reflection. And then how do you reflect? You begin to ask yourself questions, right? You ask things like, what actually happened? Factually, now, not emotionally.
Right.
What happened factually, not emotionally, right?
Right.
What is it that triggered this outcome internally or externally? Because it can come from either direction, right? And what pattern does this reveal about my habits? Right?
Right.
Right? About my decisions or about my assumptions about life, right? And what is one adjustment, or what one adjustment would meaningfully change the outcome next time? So you're now in a reflective space and you're asking good questions, and then you're assessing your answers as well. So that is when the shift becomes very powerful, and it starts to restore who you are, your agency as a person, right? And you'll find that failure will no longer define you. Failure will start to inform you, as opposed to defining you. It stopped being that wound and become a resource. And once you extract the lesson, the pain no longer controls the narrative. And that is how you learn as an individual, as a leader, as a whatever you are, not by avoiding failure, but by converting it into feedback. And that is how you turn your pain into progress.
Right. Thank you. So I know that we're getting close to our time here, and I know we're going to close in a few minutes here. But before we do that, I believe I just wanted to share a quick video of the masterclass that you recently did, since we're talking about the masterclass, and I see that Carrie Ann has placed her name on your list for the masterclass. Let's see, do we have that?
I think we played the feedback.
We played the feedback.
The other one is just a song about the masterclass.
Okay, all right. So we could skip over that. All right, no worries. So we're coming to wrapping up, and putting all of this conversation together, Dr. Stephenson. And thank you so much for sharing everything with us, and imparting your knowledge with us in actually our growth mindset overall. But we're going to close with how individuals can begin applying this work immediately. How can they start applying this work that you've shared with us immediately? So, who is the growth mindset blueprint really for?
Who is it for? Wow.
Yes. Who is this really for?
Who is it for? That is such a great question. And I would say it is for everyone. It is for people who are a bit tired of living in cycles, right? Or in circles. People who are starting, stopping, and then restart, and promising themselves and only end up letting themselves down. It is for leaders, entrepreneurs, parents, professionals, anyone who wants growth that becomes stable and not seasonal. So if you seek to have constant growth all the time, consistently, and not seasonal growth, then the growth mindset blueprint, living the growth mindset blueprint, and the master class is designed with you in mind.
Wow. I hope everyone's hearing that. And where should someone begin if they feel overwhelmed? Where would you suggest someone begin?
Well, the mere fact that you're overwhelmed is you probably have too many things going on, right? So I would suggest that you begin with one thing, not everything. Pick one belief that you hold to your chest and upgrade it. Pick one belief. Select one system to build. And I can't tell you which belief that should be. Select one system to build. It could be a system where you get up at a certain time in the morning, you check in with such and such, you have an accountability partner. Those are all systems, right? And come up with one identity statement to practice. One identity statement. And we talked about identity statement earlier. I think it's important that you understand that overwhelm decreases when clarity increases. So you have clarity when you focus on fewer things. It's probably easier for you to have clarity. So decrease overwhelm and increase clarity. It is important, I believe, to start small, start in a structured way, and be consistent with whatever it is that you do.
Right. So if viewers are to remember one thing from today's show, what should that be?
I'll tell you what stands out for me. And that growth is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aligned with who you are. When your mindset, belief, and identity and systems align, growth stops being something you chase and starts becoming something you live. And that's why it said that it is not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming aligned. And what are you aligning? You're aligning your mindset, your belief, your identity, and your system. So now you're all working together as one. And then you will experience growth in a good way.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So as we are wrapping up, we are coming to that close of our show. We are right at the hour this evening, Dr. Stephenson. Once again, I want to thank you so much for being here with us this Monday evening. But in closing arguments, if we did not share anything with our audience this evening, is there anything that you would like to share with us before we close?
Well, yeah, I want to say this because I believe it's important. And I want to leave you with this. Growth is not about fixing yourself up. It is not about becoming someone else. And it's not about perfection, as I said earlier. Growth is about alignment. When your mindset aligns with learning instead of fear, when your identity aligns with growth instead of overwhelm, when your systems align with consistency instead of chaos, growth stops becoming exhausting and it starts becoming natural. You, as individuals, as people, you don't need a new life. You don't need more motivation. We have enough of that. You don't need to try harder. What you need more than anything else is clarity, structure. You need to decide who you are becoming and build around that decision. And I believe, and I know for a fact, that is what the growth mindset blueprint is about. And that is what it means to live it. Again, let me say thank you for spending this evening with me in the spotlight with Donna as our host. Donna, give you back your show.
All righty. Okay, so once again, thank you so much, Dr. Stephenson, for allowing me to be the host and hosting you this evening on In the Spotlight. I would like to say thank you to all our guests who I'm saying guests, even though you're viewers, but you're all our guests who joined us and stayed with us. And I am sure that you've walked away with a lot of knowledge, and I'm quite sure not only will you be empowered, but you're going to go out there tomorrow and you're actually going to start living that growth mindset. You're going to start redefining your identity. You're going to start, making your failures be your accelerators for growth. So go out there and do great things for everyone who has joined us this evening, and share with your friends and family. And once again, you can go ahead and pick up a copy of The Growth Mindset at acollisionwithpurpose.com. So if you have not received your copy, go ahead and pick that up. And also you can reach out to Dr. Stephenson to see when he is having his next workshop, his next masterclass, I should say. So you can be a part of that. You saw that there was some testimonials. So this thing is very powerful. You don't want to miss it. So definitely go ahead and get on that calendar. It's the beginning of the year. You can reset. You can change your identity so you can have a magnificent 2026. And with that, I am going to ask each and every single person to go out there and do one act of kindness for the remainder of the week. Find a perfect stranger, not family or friends, just a perfect stranger, and spread kindness. It does not have to be monetary. It could be a good word, a good morning, you look great, a compliment. Let's just go out there and spread kindness. And without further ado, we are out Monday evening on In the Spotlight. Have a safe and blessed week.
I used to think growth was a destination, one big win, one celebration. But life taught me a deeper truth. Growth is daily, built by what you choose. Every setback held a lesson inside. Every moment asked me how I respond. I stopped waiting on motivation to come and started building who I'd become. I don't break when I bend, I don't lose, I learn. Every scar turns wisdom. Every failure earns its turn. This is the blueprint, written in belief, turning doubt into discipline, fear into strength. I don't stop when it's hard. I grow through the pain, every obstacle shaping who I'm becoming. This is the blueprint, mindset unbuilt, from where I am now to who I'm called to fulfill. Growth ain't a moment, it's how I move. I'm living reflection into movement, growth into practice. Every prompt stretched me, grounded my feet, helped me face habits I used to avoid. That's when mindset stopped being theory and started shaping my reality. I don't just know it, I live it out loud. Growth ain't an intention, it's what I allow. This is the blueprint, written in belief, turning doubt into discipline, fear into strength. I don't stop when it's hard, I grow through the pain, every obstacle shaping who I'm becoming. This is the blueprint, step into the spotlight. Couple lights on, cameras roll, time to break the mold. No more silence, every story's gotta be told. Truth is